Manchester United in talks with PSG over shock loan signing for Manuel Ugarte, bonus Amrabat deal, and McTominay to Fulham, not to Tottenham. These are some of the stories we will be discussing on this morning's live show. But before we get into that, please smash a like on today's video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're live every single day at 8:30, 1:30 and 6. So if you want to keep up to date with all of your latest Man United transfer news and talk, make sure you get involved. Everyone is welcome. Right, let's get straight on into it then. And let's start the show off by talking about Sofyan Amrabat. I want you to let me know, should Manchester United re-sign Sofyan Amrabat? Do you think he's good enough for Manchester United? I would love to know you guys' opinions. Get in the comment section now. Let me know the answer to this question. So, the story that we want to talk about in relation to Amrabat is coming out from Sky Sports News this morning. And they are reporting that apparently Manchester United are still in talks with Fiorentina over a summer deal for Sofyan Amrabat. It says that Amrabat is considered a signing independent of other deals. Now, what they mean by this is the rest of our deals this summer seem to be dependent on sales. I was speaking to someone last night about this and they're really upset and saying, we're not spending enough money and it's worse than the Glazers. Like, some people do feel like that at the moment, okay? And I'm going to talk about it, I'm going to address it, and I'm going to give my reaction to it. Because as it stands at the moment, Man United have only spent about 50 million euros net, okay? Last summer, under the Glazers, by the end of the window, we'd spent about 160 million net. Obviously, we were in the Champions League, but remember that the Glazers always used to spend big money when we weren't in the Champions League, okay? Let's go back to Amrabat. We'll talk about that topic in a minute because I think it's quite a big talking point at the moment. But in relation to Amrabat, he's available for £10 million, apparently. 1 year left of his contract. He's refused to sign a new deal at Fiorentina. So Fiorentina understand that either they sell him now or they lose him for free in about 11 months in June next year. So I personally think for 10 million, Amrabat's a good option, especially if we're going to look to get rid of Eriksen. We'll talk about him a bit later on in the show. Hannibal and McTominay. Those three players should be leaving the club this summer, right? 30 million for McTominay. I'd say 10 million for Hannibal and 5 million for Eriksen. That's 45 million pounds combined across three players. Obviously, McTominay would be 100% profit. Eriksen would be 100% profit because we didn't pay a transfer fee for him. And Hannibal, I'm just checking. I don't know if we ever paid a transfer fee for Hannibal. Yeah, we bought him for 10 million euros. So we might make a tiny bit of money on him. So if those three players are leaving, which we expect they will, and obviously Donny van der Beek's gone as well. So that'll be 4 midfielders leaving the club this summer. We need at least 2, if not 3 midfielders, don't we? Obviously, Toby Collier has broken through into the first team. So that's 1. Amrabat would be 2 and Manuel Ugarte would be 3. And that would be a decent summer, I think, in the midfield area because you'd have gone from Hannibal, Eriksen, Donny and McTominay to Toby Collier, Amrabat and Manuel Ugarte, and those are players in the correct positions as well because they're more defensive-minded players, whereas Eriksen, Hannibal, Donny and McTominay are more attack-minded players. We've got lots of players in the kind of attacking, the more attacking-minded midfielders, Mason Mount, the Brunos, the Mainus, like, they're all slightly more attacking, I feel like, whereas we do need to focus a little bit more on the defensive ones. So for me personally, I think Amrabat's an absolute no-brainer. I think he would be a really, really good signing. I know he's not everyone's favourite. I know some people don't think he's good enough, but when you think at the moment, right, our midfield is looking pretty bare. Would everyone agree on that? It is. Like, if Kobe Mainoo gets injured, you're going to see McTominay starting at the moment. If Casemiro gets injured, I don't even know who's going to start. And most people don't even want Casemiro here anymore. So our midfield definitely needs to, have a lot of focus put into it. Macmillan says, but Toby Collier isn't ready to play yet. He needs a loan side. He needs a loan to a championship side. I think Toby Collier looks good enough to start on the bench. He's not going to be he's not going to be a starting player, obviously. But as a bench player, I think he'd be very, very good. But circling back to Sofyan Amrabat. Available for £10 million. He's not on very big wages. It's a cheap deal to do. And I think that when you consider Manchester United's position at the moment that we're having to sell to buy, and Sky Sports are reporting that apparently to bring Amrabat in, we don't have to sell anybody. We can just go and sign him now. I think we've got to do it. We need probably 6 or 7 signings this summer. We've got 2. And the first game of the season is 2 weeks on Friday. And we have 2 signings, And it's not panic stations yet. I'm just saying with that in mind, I think, for £10 million, Amrabat currently only earns 30 grand a week. at Fiorentina, so he's not on very big money. That's half of what McTominay earns. It's about a fifth of what Donny earns. It's a fifth of what Eriksen earns. You know, Eriksen and Donny were on 150k each a week, and Amrabat was only on 30. So when you put all the bits of the puzzle together, I think having him as a squad option in a position that we don't have any depth in at all, the CDM position, we literally have Casemiro, who most people think is surplus to requirements and think his legs have gone. Like, it's a decent signing. So yeah, Sofian Amrabat to Manchester United, apparently talks still ongoing as per Sky Sports report this morning, and we don't have to sell anybody to buy him. So let me know your thoughts on that one. Would you like to see Sofian Amrabat return to Manchester United? Please do bear in mind that he's not my dream midfielder, you know? I know people say I look like him. I know people say he's my brother, but it's not like he's my dream midfielder. I just think that at the moment it is a squad game, and we have one injury in our midfield, and you're going to like Eriksen or McTominay, you know? So for that reason, I think you have to bring him in. But you can let me know your thoughts on that one in the comments section below. Everyone who's just joined the video, if you could do me a small favor and smash a like, that'd be really, really appreciated. I've set a likes target of 1,000 for today's video. So if everybody who's watching right now likes the video, we should hit that target. And we are only 5 subscribers away from 34k. So let's try and hit that by the end of today's video. I've just dropped a link in the chat to do that. So go and get involved. Right. I want to move over to Scott McTominay, though. I'm going to talk a little bit about his move to Fulham. So this is coming out again from Sky Sports this morning, saying that apparently Fulham are set to submit a second bid for Scott McTominay this week once they have completed the signing of Emile Smith-Rowe. So they've just signed Emile Smith-Rowe for, I believe it was about 34 million, which I thought was absolutely crazy. Yeah, 34 million pounds they paid for Emile Smith-Rowe. Arguably, he's a couple of years younger, but I swear he hasn't played any football in like years. He's been injured, hasn't he? For years and years and years and years. When he was fit a few years ago, he was all right, wasn't he? But 34 million pounds. I feel like that's a lot of money for Emile Smith-Rowe. Apparently, Man United are asking for 30 million pounds for McTominay, which I think is fair. He's got 1 year left of his contract, so either you give him a new deal or you sell him. Those are kind of the two options. Yeah, Emile Smith-Rowe only played 300 minutes last season for Ajax. For Arsenal. That's like 3 games. The season before that, he played 162 minutes. That's mad. So over the last 3 seasons, right, Emile Smith-Rowe has literally played about the equivalent of 5 games in 3 seasons. I think Arsenal are getting a bargain there, but once that deal's concluded, which it should be like today or tomorrow, I think he's doing his medical. Apparently, Fulham are going to go in with a new bid for McTominay. The first bid that was rejected was £17 million. Manchester United said, no, we want more. £30 million is apparently the magic number. How does everyone feel about that, though? McTominay to Fulham for £30 million. I know there's some people who love McTominay. I've never really understood it. I know he has the right attitude. I know he works hard. I know he's from the youth academy and all those things. But, like, do we think that McTominay is good enough to play for Manchester United? Like, do we think he's good enough to hold down that number 6 role in the midfield? I don't think so. I think McTominay further up the pitch is really, really effective. But in his actual natural position as a midfielder, I think he's, I don't want to say useless. That's a bit harsh. He's ineffective. That's the correct word. He's ineffective. But as soon as you stick him in the box to get you a goal in the last few minutes of a game, he does do it, you know? And he got 10 goals for us last season, didn't he? He was constantly in the box poaching these goals. So, yeah, I think if you use McTominay in the right place, he is effective. But Man United don't want to use him as a striker. They want to use him as a midfielder. And it just doesn't work. And I think even Amrabat would be more effective for what we need at the moment than McTominay. I think Rabiot would be more effective. So if you can get £30 million and then that opens the door for us to do other deals this summer, I think it is an absolute no-brainer. And I would definitely get McTominay sold this summer. But should we do a poll on it? Let's do a poll. We'll do one poll for today's show because I know people get upset about the polls. Would you sell McTominay to Fulham for 30 million? There we go. So everybody who's watching live, you can get involved in the poll. Obviously, if you're not watching live, you can't. You can get involved in the comment section. So the question is this: would you sell McTominay to Fulham for £30 million? Let me know your thoughts. I'm 100% going to say yes, without a shadow of a doubt. I think just when you factor everything in, you factor in 1 year left of his deal, you factor in the fact that he's come through the youth academy, so we've never paid a transfer fee for him. it would be 100% profit. I'd see no reason to keep him, you know? If he had 4 years left of his contract and people are offering us like small amounts of money, I would say no. But it's a decent amount of money, 30 million. You know, that would actually be, right? Let me have a look. That might be our most expensive. Let's have a look. I know our most expensive sale in the last 10 years was Dan James, wasn't it? Which is absolutely crazy. Let's have a look. So the last time we sold a player for over 30 million was Di Maria. Sorry, no, it was Lukaku in 2019, but we lost loads of money on that deal. I always remember the Dan James transfer to Leeds was one where everyone was like, that is such a good deal. We got 30 million euros for Dan James to Leeds. If we sold McTominay to Fulham, he would go down as our 4th biggest ever transfer. That's mad. It would be Ronaldo number 1, then Lukaku, then Di Maria, and then Scott McTominay. And it just shows how bad we are at selling players, doesn't it? That £30 million is our 3rd biggest ever transfer. But, oh well. I would take it, to summarise, 100%. But that's absolutely mad when you look at that, when you look at the stats of how bad we've been at selling players over the years. Like, you go down the list, right? You've got people like Fred, we sold for 9 million euros last summer. Memphis Depay, we sold for 16 million euros. Elanga, 17 million euros. Like, if that was an Arsenal selling to a Fulham in this case, they would be getting 30, 40 million for Elanga, wouldn't they? Crazy. But anyway, let's move on from that though. Let's jump on over to this whole crazy domino around Wan-Bissaka and Mazraoui. So the latest on that is Mazraoui has agreed a contract at Manchester United, a 5-year deal. He's told Bayern Munich he wants to leave. Apparently Bayern Munich and Manchester United have agreed a fee, which is reportedly somewhere around £20 million, including add-ons. Apparently it's about 15 million up front, plus around 5 in add-ons, which I think is probably fair. It probably is his market value. And we should then get that same amount of money from West Ham for Wan-Bissaka. So it should be a like-for-like exchange, effectively. We sell Wan-Bissaka, we then go and buy Mazraoui at the same time in unison. And I'm okay with it. I just kind of want to get it done now. I just want the players through the door. I want them in training. I want, hopefully, to get some of them involved for pre-season, which probably is unlikely now. But yeah, I just want to get these 2 deals through now because we desperately need to strengthen across our whole team. So yeah, Wan-Bissaka to West Ham. We probably should get the here we go today or tomorrow, I reckon. And then obviously as soon as that happens, we'll get a Mazraoui here we go, like kind of straight after. That's what's being reported. It's going to be a transaction in unison, you know, so one will happen and then the other will happen straight after, because that's effectively what Ineos are doing now. And I've seen a lot of people on Twitter getting very, very upset about it. You know, they're saying they're spending less money than the Glazers. What's going on? We need to sign 6 or 7 players. We finished 8th last season. Our squad's worse than it was. Like, people are starting to panic already. And I spoke about it a little bit on the show last night, but I actually feel like how Ineos are running the window this summer is a lot more sensible than under the Glazers. Because what they're trying to do is sell the players first and then sign a replacement. But they already know who the replacements are for all of the people that are leaving. So they know that Mazraoui is the replacement for Wan-Bissaka. They know that Ugarte is the replacement for McTominay or Eriksen or Hannibal. They know that De Ligt is the replacement for Lindelof. Like, do you see what I'm saying? And all of these players should be leaving in the coming weeks. And it makes a lot more sense to remove people on big wages, get a transfer fee in, and then go and sign their replacement. So I don't really have a problem with it, but I've seen quite a few people like really, really upset about the whole situation. But how does everyone feel about it at the moment? You know, are you frustrated with how slow things are moving, or do you agree with what I'm saying, that it's more sensible to be a little bit more pragmatic in the window than it is to be just going out signing loads of players and then be stuck with, you know, the likes of Lindelof, the likes of Maguire, the likes of, you know, Donny van der Beeks? Like, what would you prefer? At the moment, I honestly think that our squad is more weak than it was last season. And I had somebody trying to debate with me in the comment section of a video yesterday, saying, how can you say it's more weak? Like, that's so negative. And anybody who watches this channel knows that I don't really do negative on this channel. I just don't. I don't want a toxic community. I want it to be, a positive place. Obviously, if we have to have a hard conversation, we will. But I just don't understand how people can think that our squad is better now than it was last season. We've let go of 10 players, okay? Some of which were obviously youth players and some were, reserve players, whatever, okay? But 10 players have left, right? And we've signed 2. And one of those 2 players is injured now, Lenny Yoro. And Joshua Zirkzee and Rasmus Højlund share the same position. So, yeah. But I'm actually happy with how the window's gone. I don't think our squad is better in the sense of what we can put out on the pitch. But I think overall, if you look at the actual squad, you look at the money they've saved on wages, you look at the players they've got rid of, I think we're in a much better position now. And I've said this to you many, many times before. It's going to take 3 or 4 windows to get us back sorted. The Glazers have left us to rot for over a decade, and Ineos are trying to come in and sort that out. I worked out yesterday that from the 10 players that have left the club this window, the Greenwoods, the Donnies, Martials, Varans, we've saved over £1 million a week in wages. Our wage bill last season was about 220 million a season. It's now around 170 million. I mean, that deserves a round of applause on its own. To take 50 million pounds off your wage bill within the space of like a month. And that's where the wage bill should stay. We shouldn't be going above that. We should be staying around that area. You get rid of those players on the big wages. So I'm happy with it. I think a lot of people just are so used to... I think a lot of people were so used to how the Glazers used to run the club, where every time we didn't qualify for the Champions League, we would go and spend 200 million, and we'd still be rubbish. And that's what people were used to. But now it's a completely different model. The model is get rid of the players' surplus to requirements and then bring in quality up-and-coming people to grow within the squad. And I think it's working so far. But yeah, I just thought I'd open up the comment section to this one because... there was a lot of people yesterday on Twitter saying that it's a disgrace. Why are they not spending any money? We've only spent to this point, right, 50 million euros net, which is what, 40 million pounds. Last summer, to give you a comparison, by the end of the window, we'd spent about 160 million pounds net. So at this point now, Ineos have spent a quarter of the amount of money this window than the Glazers spent the year before. And people will be like, "Whoa, what's going on?" But most of that money was borrowed money, Most of that money was money that they took out on loans that they're paying high interest on. And that's why we're in the mess that we're in now. And yeah. So yeah, this summer, our total net spend so far is 52 million euros across this window, which is it's probably about 45 million pounds, right? And if you look back to last summer, our net spend was... Let's have a look. Where is it? It's there. It was 150 million euros last summer, and we've spent 60 million this year net. Obviously, that's after sales are taken off. So, yeah, obviously there's a long way of the window to go yet, but I would have no problem if our net spend is 50 million euros, as long as it's McTominay goes, Lindelof goes, Eriksen goes, Hannibal goes, as long as they get rid of all these players and they replace them with people for around the same amount of money. I'd have no problem with that whatsoever. And that's what I'm expecting to happen. I'm expecting by the time the window ends, I think if you look for our squad now, I'll go through the players really, really quickly that I'm expecting to be gone. And you can kind of, as I'm reading them out, you can either say yes or no. I think Altay Bayinder's probably going to leave. I don't really have a comment on him. I've only ever seen him play football once against Newport. So be it. I think Victor Lindelof will leave. I think Casemiro, I think he'll leave later on in the window. I think McTominay's going to go. I think Eriksen's going to go. I think Hannibal's going to go. I think Sancho will end up going. I think Pellistri will go. That's 8 players there that I think will leave the club this summer. You're probably going to get, if you sell all 8 of those players, I imagine you'll probably get around 100 to 150 million euros, right? Which would then allow us to get Ugarte, De Ligt, Amrabat. Maybe you get another attacking player. And do you see where the model is here? Instead of just spending loads and loads and loads of money, You get rid of the players surplus to requirements, and then you bring in better people. Somebody's asking about Sancho. Yes, we'll talk about Sancho in a minute. We've got over 1,000 people watching the video live now, but we've only got 200 likes. Come on, guys. Let's try and get to 1,000. We can do it. There's 1,000 of you here. If everybody who's watching right now likes the video, we will hit that target. And we are now only 2 subscribers away from 34k. So please go and subscribe if you haven't already. I am going to be giving out 2 of the new Manchester United kits when we hit 40k. So let's get to this 34k and then we can move on to the next milestone. Go and subscribe if you haven't already. Everyone is welcome. In relation to Jadon Sancho, so the latest on Sancho is this. He has apparently agreed terms with PSG. PSG want to sign him. He wants to go. Wages are agreed, all the rest of it. But the issue that we have now is agreeing a fee with PSG. We'll talk about Manuel Ugarte in a minute. But I have a feeling that we will do a loan deal for Jadon Sancho. That's what I think is going to happen. I think it will be a loan with an obligation to buy. So he'll go to PSG, have 1 season there, and then at the end of that season, they'll have to buy him. And that's effectively what's going to happen with Manuel Ugarte as well. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But how does everyone feel about Jadon Sancho to PSG? I think it makes a lot of sense. I think he could go there. I think he could go there and his career would come back to life again. But at the same time, this is a talking point. Letting Jadon Sancho go, even though it's the correct decision, I think, you know, all things considered, the stuff that happened off the pitch, whatever, right? Letting Jadon Sancho go makes us weaker. It does. Like Jadon Sancho, I know people are like, get rid of him, but he's a decent player. Sancho's better than Antony. Do we all agree on that? Sancho's better than Pellistri. Like, he is, realistically, you know? So letting go of Sancho would then mean we need to bring in a replacement, I think. Because if Pellistri goes, right, and Sancho goes, you're only going to have Garnacho, Rashford, Ahmad, and Antony as your wingers. 4 wingers. You probably need another one, I think, personally. Now, there is an argument that apparently Xerxes can play on the wing, so that's something to explore. But yeah, I definitely think that if we can let Sancho go now and bring in somebody else, that would be the best option. Obviously, the thing with Sancho is he's on big wages. There is questions about his work rate and all the rest of it. But I do think that if we could get the best out of Sancho, right, he's worth keeping. I think Sancho's quality, he is. On his day, Sancho is a quality player. John says, you've gone too far. How can you say Sancho is better than Pellistri? You're joking, right? Sancho, who just got to a Champions League final, playing every week for Dortmund. And then you've got Pellistri, who literally has probably played about 3 games in the last 5 years and is about to move to the Greek league. Are we really having that debate whether Sancho's better than Pellistri? I think there's this funny thing in the fan base, right? Where people have this obsession with these players who don't play. And they're like, oh, if Pellistri plays, we would have won the league or we would have got top 4. And, oh, it has to have been Pellistri. It was with Ahmad last season, wasn't it? You know? Everyone was like, oh, if Ahmad plays, everything will be great. We'll be fine. You know? And I think it's that whole thing of we've not seen enough of them and they seem exciting, you know? And then they'll probably play 1 game and make 1 bad pass and the same people will be like, oh, Pellistri's rubbish, he can't even pass the ball. And I don't know, I just don't really understand it. Like, how Sancho is clearly better than Pellistri. Like, surely we all agree on that. Surely. You know? So yeah, Sancho to PSG, I think it still will probably happen. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see. But I think a loan deal is probably the most likely. Obviously, PSG are looking at that Williams guy from Athletic Bilbao. They're looking at a couple of other wingers. So yeah, we'll wait and see how that one progresses. But let's move on over to Manuel Ugarte then, shall we? Because a big story dropped last night from Fabrizio Romano, who is reporting that apparently PSG are now open to a loan deal with an obligation to buy for Manuel Ugarte. He says the player is waiting to join Manchester United after reaching personal terms 2 weeks ago. Let's do it. Go and do the loan deal. If they want to do a loan, let's do a loan. I'm happy with that. And as I said, if they want Jadon Sancho, we can loan them Sancho with an obligation to buy, and they can loan us Manuel Ugarte with an obligation to buy. And then at the end of the obligation to buy, the transfer fee for both the players should be the same. So it should be 50 million for Ugarte and 50 million for Sancho. Everyone's a winner. Happy days all round. That makes a lot of sense. And then it allows Man United to spend more this window. It will allow PSG to spend more this window, knowing that they've effectively got the player this year, not for free because they still have to pay the wages. But yeah, obviously PSG did a similar thing last year, didn't they, with Benfica? They got Ramos, the striker that we were linked to, Gonzalo Ramos from Benfica on loan for a season. And then I think this year they've had to pay for him, haven't they? So at the end of that season, they had to then buy him. I think, let me have a look how much they paid for him. Yeah, 65 million euros. So he technically only just joined PSG because he was on loan for the first kind of year of the deal. So yeah, just go and do it. If that's what PSG want to do and that's what will make them happy, it makes me happy, you know? Maximilian says United are looking at Maximilian Bayer if Antony or Jadon Sancho leaves. Yes, I was going to talk about him next, actually. So thank you very much for bringing that up. He was a player we spoke about on the channel a couple of weeks ago. So let's bring up the news on him. So apparently Manchester United, as somebody has said in the chat, are interested in signing. I'll be honest, until about a month ago, I'd never heard of this guy. But that doesn't mean he's not good. It just means that I don't, watch the Bundesliga every week. But he's 21 years of age, currently plays football for Hoffenheim in the Bundesliga. His name is Maximilian Bayer. Hopefully I've said his name right. He is a striker, but he can also play as a left winger and a right winger. Available for around £25 million, which I think is decent value. 21 years of age. He's only really just kind of started breaking out into the first team at Hoffenheim. So he's not like a seasoned Bundesliga player, but he got 16 goals and 3 assists in 33 games last season. So he was averaging a little bit more than a goal or an assist every other game, which is decent, for a 21-year-old. Obviously not playing for one of the better sides in the Bundesliga. And then the year before that, I think he was in the under-21s team. Yeah, he was. So last year was really his breakout season. But apparently Manchester United, as somebody has said, want to sign him as an alternative to Jadon Sancho or Antony. Obviously, we'll talk about Antony in a minute, but the likelihood is that one of at least 2 of those players will leave the club this summer, and he looks like the most likely replacement. So yeah, I'd be interested to see whether this one will progress. I was just seeing that, and I thought there was some news on Fofana. Josh was saying that apparently they want £34 million. I mean, we all want things, don't we? But Man United won't pay the asking price. We know that. They've not paid the asking price for De Ligt. They've not paid the asking price for Manuel Ugarte. Like, yeah, they're not gonna get the money they want. Realistically, are they? Ant says so. He's basically just another Rasmus Højlund. Well, not really, because he can play on the left and the right. Whereas Højlund is more of a striker at the moment, isn't he? Whereas this Maximilian Bayer guy has played as a left winger and played as a right winger. So yeah, I don't think he's exactly the same as Rasmus Højlund. And to be honest, I think we need 3 strikers anyway. What happens if Højlund gets injured and then you've just got Xerxes and that's it? If you look back at the great Manchester United teams of old, we would always have 3 strikers. Always, or more. So, yeah, I think if we can get him in and strengthen our attacking area, I have no problem with that whatsoever. Josh is saying that apparently Liverpool are interested in him. I don't know what's going on with Liverpool. Like, absolutely mad. They've not signed a single player. They will, though. Liverpool will do business. They will. Okay, let's see what else people are saying. Let's move on over to Antony then, shall we? Because the Antony situation is really, really interesting. Apparently, Besiktas are in talks with Manchester United over a loan deal for Antony. But Antony doesn't want to go. He wants to stay. He wants to fight for his place. Oh, it's just annoying, isn't it? I like, you don't want to, put people down who are trying to, show the right mentality and stuff. But surely Antony can see that a loan move is the best option. I just think Antony being at the club puts Erik ten Hag in an awkward position, because if Antony's here, Erik ten Hag obviously feels that he has to play him because of the transfer fee, because he was his man. It was an Erik ten Hag signing, and at the moment it's an Erik ten Hag signing that hasn't worked. So I get it. Erik ten Hag wants to try and make the transfer work. He wants to prove people wrong. He wants people to see the Antony that he saw at Ajax. And so far, we haven't really seen that. Maybe bar a couple of games. I remember against Barcelona, he scored a really nice goal. And there was a couple of other games where he cut in, did his only move where he runs down the right wing, cuts in with his left foot and shoots, and it went in. But other than that, he doesn't really do anything, does he? He doesn't cross. He doesn't pass. He doesn't really take on anybody. Yeah, like... I honestly think that a loan move would be the best option for everybody. People are asking about a poll for Sancho and Pellistri. Do we really need to do a poll on Sancho and Pellistri? I don't think so. Like I said, I think the people who like Pellistri, it's just because we've not seen him and they're like, oh, Pellistri would come in and do great things. Like, do you know what I mean? Pellistri's probably only played for Man United like 10 times. I don't know. We can do it another show if people really, really want to. Ant says Antony does not want to fight for his place. He knows that any choice other than United will be a massive step down for him. He knows he's not good enough. I mean, that's probably fair as well. He probably worries that if he goes off on loan, that Man United might just never bring him back again. You know, he might just be one of those players that just continually gets loaned out. Like, that is probably a fear, that he's going to be, like, thrown away. Not thrown away, but you know what I mean. Yeah, it's not good really, is it? Okay, let's move on from that, though. Let's talk a little bit about Lindelof quickly. Oh, my nose is really itchy today. Let's talk about... what's this? There's some breaking news coming out, guys, whilst we're live, which is good. This is coming out from a very, very reliable West Ham journalist, and he is reporting that Aaron Wan-Bissaka has now agreed personal terms with West Ham. He says that Man United and West Ham are not far apart in valuation, and the deal is expected to be completed today. There you go. The first piece of the domino has fallen. Wan-Bissaka to Fulham, to West Ham, as it says. It looks like it's been agreed. Mazraoui to Manchester United has been agreed. These two deals will happen in unison. So today, I reckon we'll get the here we go for Wan-Bissaka and the here we go for Mazraoui. How does everyone feel about that? I do like it when we get breaking news when we're live. I do like it. I like to get people's live reactions. I'm fine with it. Like, let's just do it. Let's get it over the line. Let's bring another player in. Get him in training. Hopefully, he's available for the game against Man City in the Community Shield. Obviously, remember, Mazraoui can play at left back as well. At the moment, Malacia's disappeared still, and Luke Shaw's on holiday. So, yeah, we need Mazraoui. And he can play as a CDM. So, yeah, really, really happy about that. Obviously, as soon as we get the here we go, I will go live. So make sure you have the notification bell on. But yeah, it looks like Wan-Bissaka is a done deal. Mohammed says, is there any update for Lenny Yoro? At the moment, no. I don't want to speculate, you know? I don't want to speculate. Some people are saying weeks, some people are saying months. That's all of the information that's out there. Nobody knows. My fear, now this is my opinion, take this as an opinion, is that the fact that nobody knows anything is probably bad, to be honest. It feels like they're probably trying to keep it to themselves. Because if it was fine, he'd be back in training, you know? Rasmus Højlund went off injured and he's back in training. So, yeah, I don't want to scare people, but I think the Lenny Yoro situation is probably, it's probably not looking too good. But we'll have to wait and see until it comes out. Somebody's saying, who is the West Ham journalist? Let me get his name up. Where is he? There he is. It's an account called West Ham Central. Is that right? No, is that him? I don't know. I've lost it now. I had it open on my screen a minute ago, but it's disappeared. Yeah, West Ham Central. He's got over 100,000 subscribers. He only posts about West Ham stuff. Like, he is a good journalist around West Ham, reporting that Aaron Wan-Bissaka has now agreed to join West Ham. So, because that was the biggest stumbling block in that transfer was the wages. Apparently, he didn't want to. John said, we spoke about Amrabat. Somebody says, isn't Lenny Yoro back in training? I don't think so, mate. Rasmus Højlund is. At the moment, it's all just speculation. Nobody knows what's wrong with Lenny Yoro, apart from Eric Ten Hag and Lenny Yoro himself and the medical team. So until we find out publicly, everyone's just guessing. People are saying weeks, some are saying months, some are saying days. Like, nobody knows. The fact of the matter is, Lenny Yoro got injured. He's not back in training. So we just have to wait. Rasmus Højlund got injured. He's back in training, you know? So that we can only look at the facts here. But I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Thank you very much for joining me on the show today. I'm expecting a big, big day for Manchester United. I'm expecting 2 here we goes. West Ham for Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Mazraoui to United. So make sure you subscribe, everybody. We're only 1 away from 34k now. So if you are watching live and you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that so we can hit 34k by the end of today's video. Please make sure to smash a like on your way out before you leave. This has been Daily Red Devil. Thank you very much for joining me today. Have a great day, everybody. I'll be back at 1:30. Unless, of course, we get the Here We Go. If we get the Here We Go, I will go live. Thanks for joining me, and I'll speak to you all a little bit later. Bye for now.